My name is Andrew Soto. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I got into boxing as an accident. It was just something that fell into my lap as far as coaching.
Right. Okay. So how did that start? Did you box at an early age?
I boxed when I was a kid, like 13, 14, but it wasn't something that I really took serious. I was really good at it, and I got good at it pretty quick. But it wasn't something like the coaching that I had wasn't somebody who actually knew about the amateur ranks and stuff like that. So it's not like he really knew how to keep me focused and take it as something serious.
Right. So you were telling me that you were an athlete, right?
Yeah,
so
I've been an athlete my whole life.
What did you play?
I played everything. From a young age, I played football, basketball, baseball. I played everything, soccer. The one thing that really drove me was basketball, though. Right. As soon as I found basketball, I was like, that was it. That's what I wanted to play. I played high school ball. I played college ball, and I played a little bit of pro ball in Mexico.
Okay. What part of Mexico are your parents from? Did you have a relationship going back and forth to and from Mexico?
Yeah. Every year since I was a kid, my parents would always take us as a family vacation. As soon as we got out of school, we'd go to Los Mochis, Sinaloa. My whole family's from Los Mochis. My whole family was born in Los Mochis. I was the only one that was born here in the United States.
Okay, nice. So tell me, so you're one of the top trainers. Many people within USA Boxing consider you one of the top trainers in the nation. Tell me how you got into coaching. How did all that start?
I appreciate the fact that they think I'm one of the top trainers. My goal really wasn't ever to be a top trainer. When I started coaching, it was just something that really, I can't say drew my attention. It really I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it because as soon as I started coaching my own boxers, I started seeing that they were developing and they were actually, rising at a high level and stuff like that. So it was something that I really enjoyed doing. As soon as I had a kid that was good enough to start making it to, travel to these tournaments and stuff like that, we started becoming pretty successful pretty fast.
Okay, let's rewind here a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the first gym you started, how that gym fell on your lap. I think that's a key moment in your life that initiated, this beautiful journey that you have. Tell me a little bit about that in detail.
There was a pro boxer here. Well, he was a pro boxer here. His name was Kelly Cox, and he was friends with my brother, my oldest brother, and he passed away. Some sort of accident happened in the gym. I don't remember quite well. But he passed away and he left everything to my brother. And my brother pretty much, he didn't know what to do with it. He called me up one day and he was like, "Hey man, you want a gym?" But I took it, I thought he meant like some sort of fitness club, like an LA Fitness type of thing. And I was like, yeah, sure, because I thought I was just going to be, cleaning up around the place, collecting memberships, stuff like that. I thought it was going to be an easy thing to bring in income. And when he took me to go check out the location, it ended up being a boxing gym. It had everything in it. It had the ring, it had the bags, it had everything, chairs. It had everything, to be able to run a full boxing gym. I mean, I added a few things along the way, but I mean, it was ready to go. And I looked at him, I was like, I mean, yeah, I guess I could take it over. I got no problem with it. So pretty much one thing led to another, and it just, it was like a snowball effect. It just got momentum and it kept going.
Yeah, but boxing has a way of drawing you drawing you in and keeping you there. Yeah. Is that what happened to you?
That's pretty much it. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I thought it was going to be going to a fitness place, just, whatever. Right. And as soon as I started, seeing that kids were becoming successful under the way I was coaching them, I was struck. That was it. Right. It's not like I knew it was meant for me. It just took me over. Like I said, I was an athlete my whole life. I went to college. I have a bachelor's degree in pre-med. I was studying and doing everything to become a doctor. Right. And all of a sudden, I had goals of being an NBA basketball player or becoming a doctor. And then all of a sudden boxing falls in my lap, and that was it, you know.
Right.
It took me over completely.
Let's talk about your mentor. You had mentioned in the beginning you don't know too much about boxing, but you had a trainer that came into the gym and you started off in the pro ranks. Explain to me a little bit about that.
Well, when I started coaching, I didn't have too many amateurs. We had a few members that were already going, but they were pretty much going just to stay in shape. Stuff like that. They weren't really going to be competitive, you know, boxers or whatever. And the coaching that I knew was stuff that I grew up through, you know, through other sports and stuff like that. So I had an idea. Not to mention, you know, I took some sports psychology in school and stuff like that. But as far as actually, you know, running a training camp and stuff like that for a boxer, I wasn't too experienced in that. So when these two coaches called me up saying that if I had room for them to train a couple pros that they had, I opened the doors to them completely. You know, I gave them extra keys. I allowed them to come and go as they wanted. The one coach, his name is Carlos Hernandez, he helped me out the most. As soon as he saw that I wasn't really too busy with my own boxers, he pulled me to him and he was like, you know, hey, since you're not busy, help me out with the pros, you know. You can help me out in their corner, we'll figure it out, you know, whatever you need. And we'll go from there, you know. At least you'll start getting your experience, you know, working corners and working with pros and stuff like that. So, you know, one thing led to another, and you know, he helped me out the most, was that guy.
Right. Okay, so throughout the years, you gained picking up knowledge. Tell me about your amateur national champions. You have a number of national champions. How many do you have? How many have you built?
Well, my first national champion was around 2003, and actually it was 3 of them at the same time. They was in Silver Glove Nationals, and since then I've acquired about over 50. I don't know exactly, but I know it's 50. It's easily over 50 national champions over my years. And a lot of those kids have grown up, you know, not just single national champions, but multiple national champions, USA tournaments, as well as Silver Glove tournaments, as well as PAL National, Golden Glove National tournaments, stuff like that.
Beautiful. Tell me what the difference is to become a national champion. You're obviously doing something right that many coaches aren't. What do you think is the difference between your formula, between the top coaches and the rest? Why are the rest not successful and only a handful are?
I don't like to say that it's, you know, they're not successful, because obviously if they got kids that are, you know, they're winning at a certain level, they are being successful. You know, I don't want to say that they're not being successful. All I can tell you is, you know, what's worked for me, you know, and my fighters is I pay a lot of attention to them, and I make sure they put in the work. I make them understand that they have to put in the work if they want to get to the level that they want to acquire. You can have a kid come into the gym every day, hit the bags, do whatever, you know, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be a national champion. When a coach, you know, pays attention to the kid, sees their needs, and has the kid understand that, you know, I have to really work on my fight game in order to make it to that level, then, you know, that's, for me, that's a formula for success. Right. It's got to be a mutual thing between the coach and the fighter. The fighter's got to understand, I got to put in the work, I got to learn, I have to be willing to adapt to, my style isn't always going to be the same, I got to be willing to change to get better, and the coach has to be willing to put in the work to make sure they do all that.
Right. Now, your wife is Sulem Urbina,
yes,
a pro fighter. Female boxing is at its peak right now. A lot of old school trainers don't agree with it. How do you see that old mentality within boxing to how it is now? How do you see the big difference, how it was before to what it is now, and where do you see the sport going to?
Honestly, for a coach to say that they don't agree with women fighters, I think it's kind of ridiculous, because there's always been women's boxing. Even back in the day with Lucia Riker and what's her name, the young lady who was a world champion, coal miner's daughter. There's always been women's boxing.
And Christy Martin.
Christy Martin, there you go. Thank you. Now it's just picking up steam. Actually, if you think about it, within the last 3 to 4 years is when it's been picking up steam. We've been lucky. Well, women's boxing has been lucky when they added the Olympics and when they added women to the Olympics, because that pretty much solidified the chance for little girls to dream for the Olympics, and then from there to be picked up by promoters.
Many people feel that that the success that athletes have had in the UFC, especially with Ronda Rousey, they're comparing her a lot to that she could beat Floyd Mayweather. And it got this idea that a female could dominate a man in a ring. Mm-hmm. A lot of people feel that kind of transcended into boxing here in the States, and it made female boxing so much popular. Do you feel that's true? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't agree with that, because MMA and boxing are two separate sports. It's like baseball and football. You can't compare the two. The fan bases are different. There's even so much, controversy between the two. Well, not controversy, but, MMA fans want to put down boxing fans, and boxing fans want to put down MMA fans. Right. So you really can't say that. The thing that I think that really helped women's boxing blow up in the United States is the addition to the Olympics. The addition to the Olympics, that's what blew it up. That's what started putting some of these girls on the map. Started getting them promotional deals, started getting them endorsement deals, stuff like that. And put it this way, if it wasn't for the Olympics, Clarissa Shields wouldn't be a two-time Olympian right now. She wouldn't be the person she is.
Right.
And she's one of the biggest names in women's boxing right now, if not maybe the biggest.
Right. Absolutely right. Tell me what obviously you're in favor of women's boxing. Were you always open to that? Because you're one of the old school trainers. Right from the beginning, you know the culture, how it was in those gyms. They wouldn't even allow a female to come and train. Yeah. It was the culture was different. Mm-hmm. Were you open to the idea of training a female right from the beginning?
Yeah, I was. In all sports, you have a female league in every sport. You have the Major League Baseball. Women have softball. They even have it as an Olympic sport. You're starting to see women's football leagues nowadays. Basketball. You have college women's basketball. Now you have the WNBA. So in order to say that women don't belong in boxing, I mean, why not? They could throw punches just like anybody else. Right. When I first started coaching, one of my first top amateurs was a female boxer. I got her to become a two-time national champion at the time. Granted, there was a lot of there wasn't very many tournaments for her, and for her to acquire experience was very difficult because there wasn't too many females. But she put in the work. She became a two-time national champion. She actually even got to being able to represent the United States for a few years.
What is her name?
Cynthia Moreno.
Cynthia Moreno.
Yeah.
She's from here, from Phoenix?
She's from Phoenix. She's from Guadalupe.
Okay.
So she started with me. I took her from the very beginning, from the basics at, I think it was 11 or 12 years old. And I coached her till she was 16, 17 years old. Oh. We parted ways. And, I'd like to say from what I gave her, from the training that I gave her, from the basis that I gave her, she went on to represent the United States in a couple tournaments after her and I parted ways. Right. So, I've always been open to it. I'm grateful to the fact that when I started coaching, I had my own gym. I didn't come in, wanting to learn under somebody else and pick up their mentalities and their ways of thinking. I came in, with my mindset of I want to help everybody. And for instance, when I first started coaching, from one day to the next, we started getting a lot of top amateurs coaching out of my gym. Not because I was coaching them, but because their parents or their coach would ask it, because they didn't have a gym or whatever. They would ask me if they could come and coach their kids. We had Ernie Gonzalez, who was a 2002 national champion. He signed with Top Rank after that. I had Georgie Garcia. His dad used to coach him. We also had BJ Flores, who was also a multinational champion. Ended up signing in 2003 with a Main Event Promotions, going on to a big professional career as well.
Wow.
And you know, I got to be able to see all that. So if I wouldn't have had my own mindset, I wouldn't have been able to bring those people on, acquire my experience, see what I need to do to get the kids to the top level, much less, you know, bring in women, coach them, and take them to the same success that a man gets.
Right.
Why aren't they entitled to getting the same recognition? In fact, I could bring a boy and a girl around the same age to start with me, and the women always begin to develop faster. They work harder.
I was just going to ask you that question. Why is it, I keep hearing this from multiple trainers, that females work harder, that they're more disciplined. Do you see that with the fighters that you train?
I've seen it for years. Like I said, since my first female fighter.
Right.
I would have boys, and granted, boys get stronger faster than women do.
Right.
They grow faster, they get stronger faster. So you have to be very careful who you put them to work with and stuff like that.
Right.
But women try harder. They focus better. They don't cry about the training that you give them. Right. You can get on them hard one day. They'll go home crying and come back the next ready to train just as hard, if not harder. You could tell them, I need you to do 100 rounds on the heavy bag, and they won't second guess you. They'll just go and do it.
So that there's an idea that women do work harder. Why is it that they work harder than the men? What is it in their biology that makes them push harder than men? What do you think it is?
Honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's because they feel they have to prove themselves, because they know this is a world run by men, maybe. So they have to prove themselves more.
Right.
So they probably try harder in that way. Physiologically, from what I've studied and from what I know women think with both sides of their brain, and men only think with one side of their brain. So I believe that makes it easier for them to actually focus on a task at hand, or sometimes even multitask.
Right.
Because men, as soon as most men want to try and multitask, they get frustrated and then they throw one thing to the side until they accomplish one, the main thing that they got to do.
Right.
So I think it's mainly because they feel like they have to prove themselves.
Right.
They're so competitive. They're so competitive within each other. Right. That they want to make sure that they're at their best, that they're at the top of their game.
Is there any other differences that you see between training a female fighter and a male fighter? Any other differences that you want to highlight? Emotional differences? Can you speak to a female fighter just the same as you speak to a male fighter? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes and no. When it comes to speaking to them, when it comes to coaching them, you can coach them almost exactly the same. You can get on them. The way I coach, I get on my fighters a lot. When I hold them accountable for the training that they're putting in. So I can be very strict, I can be very disciplined. And with a lot of the women fighters, I noticed that I could talk to them just as harsh as I could talk to the men. But at the same time, I have to know when to switch it up, and be careful of what I say to them as well. With the men, a lot of times, I can get on them really hard, and if they don't like it, well, screw it. You're a boy, so there's no reason for me to take it easy on you, Right. If you don't like it, then maybe it's not for you.
Right.
Because, their attitudes are different. But when it comes to the women, I feel like since they put in twice as much work as the guys do, they focus harder than the guys do, that I at least owe it to them to change a little bit when it comes to, okay, I'm getting hard on you because you're being lazy. But since you've actually listened to everything I've done and you've actually put in the work and everything, I owe it to you to actually treat you a little better than I do some of the men.
Right.
Because, you deserve it. You deserve it more than a lot of the guys do.
Okay. So basically, they work harder than the men, so you're a lot easier on them than your male fighters.
Yes and no. Like I said, yes and no. It's hard, if not harder on them, but when it comes to being easier on them, they've earned it, so I can be easier on them.
Okay. Let's get into a little bit with Sulem Urbina. How she's your wife? She's a fighter. Is it difficult to change, put on a different hat from husband to trainer? Me with my daughter, it's hard for me to look at me as her trainer and not her father. Sparring sessions get hard. She looks at me for help sometimes. I'm not there to cuddle and hug right now. We're here to figure things out. Give me the perspective between, obviously she's a little girl, between husband and wife. Is it difficult? Is it easy? What is your experience with that?
It can be both easy and difficult, because when it comes to our relationship in the gym and our relationship outside the gym, in the gym, it's all business. That's the easy part. We come in, we do the work, I get to coach her, I get to do whatever. But when we leave the gym, that's where the difficult part comes in, because a lot of times, the way I see it, she's at an advantage because she gets to take her coach home with her, So if she has any questions outside the gym, if she wants to do anything outside the gym, I'm there, I'm readily available for her. But there's a lot of times where she's like, dude, I just want to forget about the gym for one day. All right, let's forget about the gym. I think boxers always make it more difficult in the relationship than the coach does when it comes to that type of relationship. Right. Because for me, maybe there's times where I don't turn it off as quickly as she would like me to. But at the same time, there isn't really a reason to take it that harshly at times,
Right.
There'll be times where in the past, where we've gone and sparred at other places and she didn't do as well as either one of us expected her to do. Maybe she had a bad day or something like that. And the trip home will be quiet. But because it's quiet, sometimes that can create conflict within it, where I'm trying to let it go, but at the same time, neither one of us like the quiet in the car on the drive home.
So you need to discuss it.
Not so much that we need to discuss it. I feel it would help if we discussed it, but neither, like in her case, she doesn't want to talk about it, or in my case, it's just, it makes it difficult.
I could totally relate to that.
Yeah.
I go through that same thing with my daughter.
Yeah.
I think us as trainers are always trying to figure out a solution. Mm-hmm. And our brains don't stop here in the ring. We take it home with us, and we're always thinking, and sometimes they want to shut it off.
And the thing is in every sport, it's like that in every sport with coaches. Mm-hmm. It's a known fact that the life expectancy of a coach is much shorter than the average male is, because they never turn it off.
Yes.
The stress goes home with them.
Yes.
A lot of times they don't sleep well, they don't eat well. That's when they start. A lot of times they abuse alcohol or whatever because of it, because they can't turn off the stress. So the life expectancy of a coach is shorter. When it comes to a boxer that isn't family, a coach is expected to go home, figure things out. That way, when they're ready the next day, they come in with a game plan. Right. But when you take the boxer home with you, it's almost like you have to do that, behind hidden doors, so that, like in my case, my wife doesn't see it. She doesn't stress out about it or whatever. So a lot of times it's okay, because we're getting ready for her next fight. Say we're getting ready for her next fight. We know who her opponent is. We have to discuss who she's fighting. Sometimes we can't wait till we're getting to the gym. Sometimes we have to talk about it.
Yes.
We have to find that even playing field to where we have to be able to talk about her career without either one of us getting upset about it.
Absolutely.
And another thing that's like in my case, my personal case is a lot of times people think that I get upset because when I talk and I get excited about stuff, I raise my voice. And I think it's because of the way my whole family's been like that. We're loud people. And a lot of people think I get upset when in reality I'm not. But then when people say, "Why are you getting upset?" then that upsets me.
Right.
So it's difficult sometimes.
It is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving forward, how do you envision female boxing in the future? You think it's the future of the sport, female boxing? You think maybe it will, dominate the male fighters? With the money coming into the pro ranks. How do you envision women in the future, in let's say 10, 15 years from now?
Excuse me. Boxing in the future can definitely be dominated by women. It can. It's more exciting. They're more readily to get in there and start exchanging punches with each other. There's been times where I've told my wife, okay, in the first round, get warmed up, establish your jab, move around a little bit, but as soon as that first bell rings, they just go at it. It's like what everything I said just went right out the window.
Right.
So as far as coaching her, it can be difficult sometimes, but when it comes to women in the future, like I said, they're ready to go at it. They're ready to fight. They don't sit there and try and fill each other out. They're filling each other out is establishing who's stronger in that first round sometimes. I think what helps a lot with that though is the fact that they only fight 2 minutes. They don't have the time to establish a jab. They don't have the time to break down the other opponent. So a lot of times they have to put in the work. The thing that I see that's hindering women's boxing though, as far as them being, the dominant part of boxing is the fact that I feel that labeling it women's boxing is hurting it, because I feel it helps to remind the people who keep it down. It reminds them that, hey, it is women. It's not an even playing field. We're men, they're women. And I think that's what's gonna hurt it in the future. But as far as saving boxing, I think they can 100% save boxing.
Yes.
I feel that women really shouldn't fight like they got a chip on their shoulders. I feel that they should understand that they've already established themselves. I feel that they should take everything they do in the gym and prove it, not because they have to, but because they're willing to and they want to. I feel that the title of women's boxing needs to be thrown in the garbage. I feel that in order for them to start getting equal pay and equal respect, I feel it just needs to be called boxing. I think they need to be fighters, just fighters, plain and simple. Like I said before, the fact that they put women in the title is what's keeping them down. WNBA, I feel that that's what hurts the WNBA, is because everybody knows, hey, it's women's NBA, and they're getting the short end of the stick. Boxing in the future can be totally dominated by women because they're more exciting. They fight, they put in more work. Whatever the talent level that they're at, they come ready. And they're willing to take fights on 1 week, 2 weeks notice for as little pay as possible sometimes. Right. So, I mean, once that title of women is gone, I think they're gonna dominate everything.
Is there any fighter that you see coming up that really excites you, a female fighter that you're like, that's the one that's really gonna put it over?
Obviously my wife. I mean, she's had a string of bad luck, but I think, once she gets that behind her, everything's gonna change. Right. But as far as like up and coming, it's difficult to say. I don't like to really do that, to pick and see and say, oh, this girl's gonna make everything, because I've seen it throughout my tenure of being a coach, where I've seen kids that just, I mean, if they would have ever turned pro, they would have cleaned house. And for one reason or another, they make a stupid mistake, or they just feel like they want to hang up the gloves, they just do it. So to say that there is somebody like that, I really don't like to pick somebody, because
anybody that excites you, anybody that excites you, that you feel something for, and you're like, that's that one right there. Anyone you could pick.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's like we've stated this whole interview. I mean, women's boxing is at an exciting spot right now. We had in 2016, 2012, 2016, we had a good bunch of high-level female boxers come through. And I feel that a lot of that was because, how we stated, they had to prove themselves. Not to mention, I think that helped out a lot, because women had to compete against boys when it came to sparring, because there wasn't that many women. So their level had to go up fast. I feel that right now we're kind of in a little bit of a slump. No, I don't want to say slump, because I don't want to disrespect anybody. I'm just going to say that right now I don't want to say it, because I don't want to pick anybody or say that anybody excites me, because of the same thing, There's a lot of good talent out there.
Right. Okay.
And I don't want to disrespect one person by picking another. Okay. But there could be there's a lot of talent out there right now. We just need a couple of them to just take the stage.
Okay, I got one last question I'm going to throw in there that kept coming up in other interviews. I spoke to a few fathers that have been in the game, Senisa's dad, a few other coaches that have been long in the game. And I see a lot of the top boxers, amateur boxers, that really grind hard at a very young age, have over 200 amateur fights. A lot of these coaches are against pushing young fighters to the limit, because when it comes time to turn pro, a lot of them end up hating the sport. There's a lot of coaches that really push their amateur kids to the limit in training, making weight. What is your opinion about that? What do you feel about all those people that say that they're against pushing young kids to the limit?
See, that question has a lot of answers to it.
Right.
Because first of all, like you said, a lot of coaches push their boxers. A lot of coaches drain their fighters when it comes to making weight. A lot of parent coaches don't know how to shut it off, like we stated before. So they burn out their kids a lot. Honestly, like in our case, I try to get my girls, and we're talking about the girls right now. I know I have male boxers in the gym right now, but talking about the girls, for instance, I try to get them as many fights as possible. But it doesn't always work that way. It doesn't. You go to a smoker, you go to a club show, and you take a gym full of kids, we're lucky to get one fight. So for us to say that we get 200 amateur fights into our kids, it's like, dude, that'd be a miracle for us. 90% of our fights come from traveling and going to these national tournaments, or to the title tournament and stuff like that. Back in the day, the Adidas tournament, the ringside tournament. Here locally, we don't get any fights. So to say that, we would get 200 fights is difficult. For a male fighter, I could understand that. And I could see where a kid could get burnt out. And I've seen a lot of kids get burnt out. I've seen kids from back in the day who were killers in the amateurs, winning national tournament after national tournament, and then as soon as they turn pro, they don't succeed as well. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they become, maybe because they become so successful at such a young age, that when they have to start over again and work at it again, they don't know how to do that, or they don't want to do it. They don't want to put the work back in. Right. They like the fact that they were, the big fish in the pond. But now that they're in a bigger pond, they don't want to have to put in the work again to do it.
Right.
I see boxing.
You think it just depends on the situation, on the fighter?
I think it depends on the fighter. I think it depends on the coach, the way he's coaching them. I think it depends on the communication between the two, because I see boxing as when a kid's going through school. When a kid goes to school, they start in kindergarten. A boxer starts in kindergarten the same way when it comes to basics. Then when they graduate kindergarten, they start going into elementary school. It's a different story. They start from first grade, and a boxer does the same thing with their very first fight. They're barely beginning.
Right.
So once they move from elementary school into a junior high, it's all over again. You're the bottom kid on the totem pole. And when you go from being a junior boxer to a youth boxer, you're the bottom kid of the totem pole again. Now you go into high school. What is that? That's like going into the elite division. A lot of kids that were in the junior division being successful don't cut it in the elite division, because those are grown people. Right. And it's the same thing in high school. Imagine about the stresses of high school and stuff like that kids go through. So it's like they're constantly getting up to the top, then they have to stop and start over again.
Right.
They get to the top, then they have to start over again.
Right.
And it's the same thing in boxing. Once a kid, say like in my case where I wanted to be a basketball player, when I got into college, to everybody, they look down on you. Right. You're the bottom kid on the totem pole again. Right. If you want to win my spot, you better prove yourself. Right. And it's the same thing in the pros. Yeah, you were a top amateur, but you got to start all over again.
So it's constant overcoming.
It's overcoming.
Constant overcoming.
It is. It's constant overcoming.
Which defines a true fighter. Mm-hmm. It's about overcoming.
It's overcoming. It's perseverance.
Right.
And a lot of kids, they don't learn that early on, or they know they have to do it, but sometimes they're not ready to put in the work again.
Right.
And it's like going into university. It's like going into the pros. You know, it's constant. You're constantly proving yourself, getting right back up into that totem pole. Right. And when it comes to the pros, like in the amateurs, how many amateur national champions can you have? You could have tons. But when it comes to the pros, there's only 4 belts.
Right.
And people are even discussing wanting to go back to 1 belt. So I mean, good luck, you know.
Right.
It's not an easy task to do that.
Absolutely.
So I think the kids start understanding the work they got to put in, and a lot of it I think could also be self-doubt. Right. And I think that's where a coach comes in as well, because if you were able to take a kid and build them up with all this confidence as a kid, why can't you talk to them and work on their psychology on it in the pros again and build them back up into the pros?
Right.
They might never become a world champion, but they can be a top contender.
So it's basically all about mindset and having the correct people and team around you to get you over that hump.
The mentality of boxing is 95% of boxing. Right. The physical part is easy. Anybody can throw a punch. Anybody can throw a 1-2. Right. But to have that mindset and that confidence and the understanding that, okay, I actually got to put in the work. I gotta understand that I'm a good fighter. I can do this. I'm better than that person. You're not going to beat me. That's the mentality. That mental part is the part that's always the most difficult. Right. To make them believe that, hey, I can win. Only 2 kids go into the ring, and the one with the stronger mindset's the one that's going to come out victorious.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to wrap up this interview. Mr. Soto, thank you so much for this interview. Anything else you want to add to it? Are you good?
I'm good, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.